Welcome back. Welcome back. This is the People's Voice. I am Trey Evans, and I am the People's Voice. Thank you again for checking out the podcast this week. As always, it is greatly appreciated. As always, we thank everyone who has taken some time to listen to the podcast today. We do understand that you could be utilizing that time to do something else, so we appreciate you spending your time equity with us. As always, if this information is valuable and you find it to be enlightening and worth sharing, we ask that you subscribe to the podcast and turn on notifications. That way you'll be notified when each episode is released. We put out a new episode each and every Friday, which is heard on all podcast platforms. And then we put a video out on YouTube every Wednesday as well for those who would like to watch the podcast. But in any event, we say thank you and welcome to the People's Voice podcast. So today I want to talk about holiday debt, and just debt overall, and I'm saying debt, DEBT. I know many people have heard my New York accent, and sometimes some of the words don't sound like the way they need to sound, but I'm talking about debt. So today I want to talk about holiday debt. And I want to talk about this today because there's been several stories that recently have come out, talking about the decisions that many Americans are making when it comes to spending money for this holiday season to buy gifts. So I want to kind of talk about debt. I want to talk about what the spending levels look like for this year. Then I want to kind of get into some of the debt that people are going to be taking on. And then last but not least, I want to talk about how debt itself can affect your health and why it's important to kind of rein that in. So that's what I want to cover today, holiday debt. And I want to talk about this today because there was a story that recently came out, which comes out annually, and it's published by the National Retail Federation. And in that study, they always do a story where they look at the numbers of people that have come out to spend money during the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. And so in this story, they kind of went over what those numbers are. And so in terms of the number of shoppers that they have identified that came out over the weekend, and this is over a 5-day period, they state here that this year they saw almost 197 million people decided to shop this weekend over the Thanksgiving weekend. Now, that number is down from last year. Last year, the number was at 200 million. This year, it's at 197 million. So it's down about 3 million, 2.6, something like that. But it is still higher than what they expected because they thought that this year it would be much lower than that, given what the inflation has been over the last couple of years. They thought spending, or at least people coming out to shop and also shopping online, would be down, but it's actually down, but not as far as they thought it would be. In addition, over that 5-day period, they break down kind of what the numbers looked like in terms of how people were shopping and what number of people were shopping. So on Thanksgiving, there was some moderate shopping. Black Friday, which is typically here in the United States one of the biggest shopping days of the year, there was a considerable amount of people, almost 80 something million people, almost 90 million people shopped online, but 80 million people were in the actual stores on Black Friday. And then it goes through some additional numbers Saturday, Sunday, and then Cyber Monday, of course, which has become very popular for shopping online. Almost 64 million people shopped online for Cyber Monday. Now, that's just the number of shoppers, but in that graph that I was showing for those who are listening, in that graph, it shows very distinctively that, online shopping is by far taking over in-store shopping, which, lends further to the concerns of why so many retail stores are closing. Just to kind of round it out there, in this study as well, they also talked about the average amount spent by each of those shoppers over that Thanksgiving weekend. So based on the National Retail Federation survey again, they said that an average amount of $235 was spent on gifts this past holiday weekend, with 49% of that being spent on clothing and accessories. And then right behind that, you have toys, gift cards, and so on and so forth. So that's where the spending went this weekend. That's how many people spent. I'm giving that as a background because this leads me into the conversation around holiday debt. So holiday debt this year is predicted to increase even from where it was last year. And there were several surveys that recently came out that kind of, drive that point home. One of those surveys that came out was from debt.com. And in that survey, debt.com, they polled about 1,000 Americans just to kind of find out what their shopping plans would be for this new year. And in that survey, 66% of the people that were surveyed admitted that they will go into debt this year for holiday shopping, which I mean, I'm just like, the fact that someone is already planning to go into debt, it's just, that's mind-boggling to me. But I don't want to be judgmental because I know everybody's situation is different. But that's a lot of people. Now, they only surveyed 1,000 people, so it's a relatively small survey compared to obviously, the population of America, but still very telling. In that survey, they also asked, how much would people take on in terms of debt? So out of that 1,000 people that were polled, 26% said they would take on somewhere between $100 and $300. 30% said they would take on somewhere between $300 and $700. Right. So, I mean, that's already, half of those people surveyed, taking on what I consider, some debt, obviously. Where it gets, very crazy is that 19% said they would take on 700 to 900%. 19% said they would take on $700 to $900. 15% said they would take on $900 to $1,000, and then 10% said they would take on $1,000 or more in debt just to shop for the holiday season. In terms of what's affecting that spending, people have admitted that, AI will, if AI and also ads recommend a gift, that they're probably more likely to buy that gift. And, social media bots are out this time of the year, if anything, that everyone knows, this is the time of the year where you see that. And then how will they pay this, or how will they go into debt based on this survey? Credit cards are the most common financing option for AI recommended gifts. However, BNPL, which is buy now, pay later, is getting more and more popular. And I talked about that, I think, earlier this year as well, about, that's not being reported, but there is a steady amount of BNPL debt that is occurring that's not being talked about. But 80% said basically that they would go into debt using credit cards. 65% said buy now, pay later. Retail store credit cards, 60% said they would use those, and then 58% said they would use payday loans. Which again, I'm going through these numbers because I'm trying to paint the picture of what's going on, kind of culturally in our society, where debt has become so accepting, especially, what I consider bad debt, where you just using it for consumption, and, basically you become very much shackled to that, especially if it gets out of hand. In another survey, which is even more concerning, is that there was a study done by WalletHub, and in that study that they did, they put a poll together, and in their poll, it was discussed that over half of Americans still have debt that they didn't pay off from last year. So now, when we talk about these numbers here, in terms about the number of people that's already planning to go into debt, you still, and I'm sure many of those who already are planning to go into debt probably fall into this bucket as well, of Americans that still have debt from last year. Now you're starting to look at a real tsunami, in my opinion, in terms of what debt will look like in 2025 for many people. In that same survey by WalletHub, they also said that 45% of Americans say they won't pay for their holiday purchases in full by the due date. So that means interest is going to hit them. And then 52% of the people that were surveyed in this WalletHub survey said that they will apply for a new credit card to help with shopping this year. So debt is going to go up significantly after this holiday season going into the new year. Why is this occurring? Well, culturally, especially here in America, there is a pressure, right? It's almost like a peer pressure to participate in the holiday season by exchanging gifts. And it's also, it's like I said, it's become very much culturally accepted that people will just say, well, I don't have the money, I'll pay it some other time, but I want to make sure that this experience that I'm trying to deliver is the best for, the people or the family members in their life. But there is a real psychological analysis that has been done to show that this is just not social pressure, but it's also, a result of something that's been diagnosed as FOMO, right? FOMO, which is fear of missing out. And matter of fact, a professor from the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, talked about this with CBS 58 in Milwaukee. So let me play that, and then I'll kind of, close out in terms of the health implications as a result of debt. So let me play that, and then we'll go from there.
Harush Papatla, a professor of marketing at UWM, he says advertisers and social media are very good at getting people to feel a need over the holidays.
You're missing out on giving something cool and being seen as a cool person.
He says, for better or worse, buying and consuming is ingrained in American culture. It drives our economy. And while it feels good to give, scoring those holiday deals feels twice as good.
We also want the gratification of feeling smart by saying to ourselves, hey, I saved $25 today, which I couldn't have yesterday.
And those are all, real world emotions, right? The gratification, the fear of missing out. But those are things that also are leading to people going deep into debt during the holiday season, which they will not recover from throughout the year, because usually they pile onto that debt. And then when you start talking about interest and things of that nature, it can really get out of hand. Going into the health implications from debt. And like I said, there are real health implications that occur as a result of death. I'm reading a study here from the American Public Health Association, where they talked about the impact of individual and household debt on health and well-being. And in this study, they pointed out some specific issues that are developed as a result of carrying debt. In this study, it says here that unsecured debt is a risk factor for poor health, which can include depression, depressive symptoms, anxiety, can lead to other mental disorders, high blood pressure, obesity, because many people eat, emotionally eat, stress eat, so that can lead to obesity. It even goes on to report that it can lead to sexual symptoms, child behavior problems, lower life expectancy, even possibly higher mortality, because sometimes when people start to take on debt, they start to make decisions that kind of push their health to the side. So instead of going to the doctor, they're like, well, I got to make this payment on this credit card. I'm not going to go to the doctor this month or this week. And then, that could lead to some serious complications regarding your health. It goes on to say that, higher amounts of unsecured debt are associated with worse health. Others have shown that simply being in an indebted state is associated with poor health. It goes on to talk about, some of the chronic issues and the psychological issues that can occur as well. Occur as well. Unsecured debt, I'm just reading here, finishing up. It says unsecured debt, which often carries high interest rates and punitive repayment structures, is likely to be especially stressful. Indeed, borrowers describe being in debt as causing intense feeling of personal failure, shame, depression, and anxiety. And again, all of these can lead to, some serious health issues and also some serious behaviors, as I kind of noted there before, but it says here as well, it can lead, to insufficient physical activity, being overweight, fast food consumption, binge drinking, substance use, and other risky behaviors. So, having debt is not just about, what it is doing to affect your pocketbook, but it's also affecting what your health, will possibly look like down the line. So it is very important that, people are mindful and rein this in, as they are, shopping this year, making smart decisions about how they're going to spend their money, and definitely doing everything they can do to stay out of debt. And if you have debt, you definitely want to, focus on working on getting that down instead of building upon that more to potentially risk not only financial damage, but health damage as well. Just some quick tips that are recommended by the Anxiety Depression Association of America. They talked about be proactive in your holiday management and planning. So again, you want to kind of plan out what your budget is before you jump off the bridge there, or jump off the edge trying to please everyone. Also, it says be slow down, kind of take a checklist like I kind of said here. Also, the big thing here that they talked about, it said remind yourself of the essence of the holiday season, which I thought was a great tip. It says you can honor the spirit by volunteering. You can honor this spirit by volunteering at a nursing home, joining a community group, or doing activity that takes you out of the I perspective and allows you to feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself. And I think that was a great piece of advice, because essentially that's what the holiday season is supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be about gathering and community and connections. But obviously, in the culture that we live in, we've been conditioned to think that the holiday season means, spend, 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 when, that should not be the case.
I'm focused, man.
But that's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about debt this year. I want to talk about holiday spending and what it's going to lead to in terms of debt, but also wanted to kind of hit the effects that debt has on your physical and mental health. So I hope that this information is helpful, and please share it, because I think somebody needs to hear this message, and that's why we're here. But again, if you want to leave a comment or you want to reach out to us, you can reach me at the People's Voice Podcast on Instagram, or you can reach me on any social media platforms at Trey Evans. I am Trey Evans. But that's my time for today. So as always, dreams are not just for sleeping. Please wake up and live your dreams. My name is Trey Evans, the People's Voice. Tell somebody about the dream. Salute.